Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, we're looking at the all-new 2022 Chevrolet Trailblazer Activ and the 2022 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend. Both of these are smaller size SUVs that have some off-roading style and characteristics to them. So today we're going to put them head-to-head, see which one is better. For the Trailblazer Activ, it has a list price right around $32,000, and the Ford Bronco Sport is close to $31,000. So I picked two trim levels that are very similar in price, and let's go ahead and take a look at the exterior, the interior, get them out on the road, and then we'll see which one is better and why. We're going to start off today's comparison with what powers this all-new Trailblazer. Underneath the hood is the 1.3 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine paired to the 9-speed automatic transmission. It pumps out 155 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque. This does have a part-time 4-wheel drive system. It weighs in right around 3,000 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 9.4 seconds up to its top speed of 119 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 13.2 gallons. You'll expect to see around 26 miles per gallon in the city and 30 out on the highway. This also has ground clearance of 8 inches, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find an approach angle, a departure angle, or the breakover angle for this off-road focused SUV. As we work over to the Bronco now, this comes with a 1.5 liter EcoBoost 3-cylinder engine. However, a 2 liter 4-cylinder turbo is optional. It's paired to the 8-speed automatic transmission and pumps out 181 horsepower, 190 pound-feet of torque. That power sent through the 4-wheel drive system. It weighs in right around 3,400 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds with a top speed of 125, and it has a fuel capacity of 16 gallons. You'll expect to see around 25 miles per gallon in the city, 28 out on the highway. And for the off-road specs, this has ground clearance of 8.8 inches, an approach angle of 30.4 degrees, a breakover angle of 20.4 degrees, and a departure angle of 33.1 degrees. Now, as we move on to the exterior styling for both of these smaller size SUVs, the all-new Trailblazer has a really cool design, especially with the two-tone look, finished off in this vivid orange with all of the white. There's even black chrome for the entire front end section, giving it more of a classy look. It's a little bit less rugged with that trim piece, kind of more luxurious in a sense, but I think it gives it a great contrast. Now on this Trailblazer, the headlights are actually in the middle section of the bumper with the turn signals and the LED DRLs in the upper section. So very unique, not a lot of vehicles offer that. And this does have LED fog lights in the lower section. There's plenty of cutouts to provide cooling to that turbocharged engine, and it gives it a really nice sleek look, especially with the lines coming down the hood and then the crisp line right in the middle meeting the Chevy bow tie logo front and center. And now moving on to the Bronco Sport, this retains a similar boxy design, very modern look to the original Bronco Sport, so it's nice to see that adaptation. Now Bronco is spelled out right in the grille, and this model even has LED headlights, DRLs, and turn signals. That is an option, having the LED package. There's plenty of cutouts in this grille and the lower section as well to provide a lot of cooling to that engine. And then there's more plastic trim in the lower section to give it more of that sporty look and have a little bit more protection versus having that body colored. Really nice lines running down the hood. And then as we move on to the side profile now for the Trailblazer, this has a set of 17-inch wheels. Now for the Activ model, it gives it a little bit more beefy of a tire. Not too crazy though for the size. It's going to be a very quiet tire while you're out on the road. But this also has all the plastic trim that surrounds the fender flares as well as the lower section of the side skirts. It's even in the lower corners of that front bumper too, to give it more of that off-road focused style. If everything was body colored, you could see more scratches if you were to take this off-road and get some trail damage. The plastic is a good trim just to give you a little bit more protection. It's easier to replace as well. And then over on the Bronco Sport, surprisingly, it has a larger set of wheels with 18-inch wheels. They have a square shape to them to give it more of that retro design, which is great to see. This is the Big Bend, as I mentioned. The side mirrors do not have the integrated turn signal. However, you can get that on some higher trim levels. This has roof racks, even a bulge in that roof to give you a little bit more headroom for your backseat passengers. And then moving on to the rear end now, for this Trailblazer, this has a two-tone design for the spoiler, which gives it a unique look. This has LED taillights as well as a backup camera with all of the parking sensors. More of that black chrome in the lower section. This even has a towing capacity right around 1,000 pounds. So that's pretty adequate, especially for this 3-cylinder engine. If you have a smaller trailer, you can definitely hook it up to this. And then over on the Bronco Sport, no spoiler. This does have the third brake light up top. Same position for that rear wiper blade. This does have LED taillights as well. All of the letters are finished off in white for Bronco Sport to give it more of that retro design. This can even tow up to 2,000 pounds as well. So very practical for the size again. And then as we move on to the cargo space for this Trailblazer, it has a good amount of room. I was able to fit a lot of items in this while I had it for the week. Up underneath the floor is the spare tire with even some more hidden storage, so you can place smaller items down below if you need to. So it's a pretty adequate amount of room, and the back seats do fold down, giving you a lot more interior storage. If you really need to pack this full of items, you have a lot of usable space. Over on the Bronco Sport, I really like the fact that the rear glass opens up. Now that opening is very narrow, so you're probably not putting a lot of items through there, but it's really cool to see. Not a lot of vehicles, even smaller size vehicles like this, have that option, and then we can open up the liftgate. Very similar amount of space for the Bronco Sport. There's some cutouts on both sides, and with the back seats folded down, there's a lot more space. Just like I mentioned, you can haul all of your items with you for the day and easily pack them in the back. And then making our way to the back seats now for this Trailblazer. I'm 5'10". I had a good amount of space in the back seats. I did have passengers in this while I had it for a week. They didn't have any complaints with the amount of room. We were easily able to adjust for them. Plenty of headroom as well. And then right in the middle is a 3-prong outlet as well as a USB and a USB-C. Over on the Bronco Sport, with that bulge that I mentioned earlier, it gives you even more headroom. Plenty of room for your front seat passengers as well. And then just getting another look with those back seats down. Plenty of space for anything that you need. The front seats in the Trailblazer had a really nice design with that two-tone leather, as well as having some inserts running down them. They were power operated seats as well. Over on the Bronco Sport, a little bit more simple. All of the colors kind of tie in nicely together. Nothing too dramatic or exciting. Bronco is down on the door sill there. However, these seats have a really nice design. Even though they're finished off in cloth, there's a denim-like material running down the insert, so kind of more on the plain side, but still gives it a really nice look. And then going back to the Chevy now, for the gauge cluster, had a really nice design with the analog gauges on both sides, and right in the middle was a lot of information to go through. From your music, you could go through all the vitals so that way you could check all of that information. You could pull up the navigation when you had that on and running. This model even had adaptive cruise, which is great to see. You could go through your phone when that was paired, even go through all of the basic settings. Over on the Bronco Sport, same analog gauges for the tach and speedometer, and then there's some information to go through within that center screen. However, it is a little bit smaller, but you do get a good amount of information just to go through all of your vitals and basics that you need to see. Over on the Bronco Sport, this has the GOAT modes, which means goes over any terrain, where you can see sand, normal, there's even an eco mode, sport mode, and then slippery and wet. Now the infotainment system on this Trailblazer was very simple and straightforward. It's easy to go through all this information, all of the icons as well. It did have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so there was no physical navigation. You did have to plug your phone in order to pull that up on the screen. But everything else was really easy to go through. Even some shortcuts in the lower section to get to your phone, music, compass, even the climate controls. On the Bronco Sport, it has a little bit larger of a screen, a little bit less configurable as well. All of those favorites on the lower section are fixed. So navigation, phone, audio, apps, those do not move, and you can't drag and drop anything to the bottom. However, this model does have navigation, so for a similar price, you get that factory in the Bronco Sport. Really clear system, easy to go through. Now underneath the infotainment system in the Chevy, there was a 12 volt, all of the auxiliaries where you could hook up electronics, even a wireless charging pad, which I did use. It charged my phone very quickly. I was impressed to see that. And while this was an all-wheel drive vehicle, you could put it into two-wheel drive, so it would be front-wheel drive bias. I did forget to mention that in the beginning of this video. And then over on the Bronco Sport, underneath that infotainment system is the same climate control layout, very similar in a sense with a minimal amount of buttons. However, up underneath, there is no wireless charging pad, just a 12 volt, a USB, and a USB-C. So I really like this model. It's been really nice. I've done a lot more highway driving with it, averaging right around 31 mpg. Now that's been more highway. In the city, that'll drop a little bit to the high 20s. So it's pretty adequate for the size of this model, or for the size of the fuel tank, and for the size of this engine. And even though this is a 1.3 liter, it actually has some pep to it. I've been able to pass out on the highway, and without having to put my foot to the floor, even right now, I can get up and move without slamming my pedal to the floor. So it has a good amount of power to it for that smaller size engine, and of course that's going to get a little bit better MPG. But it's been really nice to drive. You can hear a little bit of wind noise here and there, but it's nothing too crazy. The suspension absorbs all the bumps very well. It's just a nice daily driving, smaller size SUV. If you're looking for something of this size, you want an SUV, you want something that can tow a little bit if you want a small trailer, and then you want that good MPG as well. It's a great blend, and I like the fact too that with this all new trim level, the Activ, it does give you some off-road characteristics. Now, this is not a hardcore off-roader. It's not really designed for off-road. We do have the off-road suspension, a little bit beefier of a tire. I do wish, however, maybe it came with a little bit of lift. I know some other manufacturers offer like a 1-inch lift or something like that, just to give you a little bit more ground clearance. So it's not too off-road focused. It's kind of just a mild off-road kit, so you can take it on gravel, you know, if you're going camping, hiking, you're going to the mountains. We're getting onto the on-ramp. That is about 80-85% throttle. I didn't go all the way down, but we're up to cruising speed already. This is a pretty long on-ramp, but we are ready to merge. And as far as visibility goes, it might be a little bit hard to see from this angle, but looking over my left shoulder, really easy to see. As you saw earlier, that pillar in the back is pretty bulky, but honestly, driving this around, being on the highway a lot, where you need to obviously look left and right, depending on which lane you're in, it really hasn't been all that bad. I love the exterior styling and the exterior design, and I also love how Ford has retained the old school Bronco look, and they've brought it to the modern era with both the Bronco Sport and the Bronco. But the Bronco Sport is a very aggressive, smaller size SUV. I love the bulges in the hood that you can see from the driver's seat. And if you want to stick out a little bit, you want something different than your typical vehicle, I think the Bronco Sport is a great option, both with its exterior design and its interior design as well. As I mentioned earlier, this is based off of the Escape platform. It is a little bit shorter, but at the same time, you're not really sacrificing any interior room. And then going ahead and giving it a little bit more gas, we are getting up to the speed limit just like that. You can opt for the larger engine if you like, which is a 2-liter engine, but with the 1.5-liter EcoBoost, I don't see any issues with it. It definitely has a good amount of power for the weight of this vehicle. Overall, this is a great smaller size vehicle. If you're looking for something like this, we have the 4-wheel drive system, all of those GOAT modes, which means goes over all terrain. You can get a few more different driving modes just depending on the trim level that you go with. So this is missing a few compared to some of the more off-road focused trim levels for the Bronco Sport. And now coming back to our final thoughts between the 2022 Chevrolet Trailblazer Activ and the 2022 Ford Bronco Sport. Personally, I think I would go with the Bronco Sport just because it has a little bit more off-road characteristics, all of those different driving modes as well. On the Trailblazer, I feel like it's just more of a pavement driving vehicle. We do have the off-road suspension, a little bit beefier of a tire. That is pretty much it. You have all-wheel drive, and then you can put it into the front-wheel drive bias mode. On the Bronco, you actually have some off-road focused modes, and you can even get some higher trim levels that even have more off-road focused modes like rock mode, sand mode. So I feel like Ford did a really good job at presenting this smaller size SUV. It's not like the big Bronco, but it's a smaller size SUV that you could take off-road. You could lift it, do some modifications to it if you really wanted to, but I feel like it's a little bit more off-road rugged than the Trailblazer. Both are good options though if you want a smaller size vehicle, just depending on the brand that you like, the shape that you like. They do have a little bit different of a design. The Ford Bronco Sport is a lot more boxy, a lot more retro to the original Bronco. The Trailblazer is kind of more of a modern vehicle, a lot more smooth lines. It's not boxy at all, so very different styles between both of these smaller size vehicles. Comment down below and let me know which model you would go with and why. Like I said, I think I'd go with the Bronco Sport just to be able to take it off the pavement. I don't think the Trailblazer, anyone buying that is really going to take it off-road, but they both are great for gravel roads, you know, going hiking, camping, things like that. The Bronco can go a little bit farther though. So I hope you enjoyed today's comparison between the Chevrolet Trailblazer and the Ford Bronco Sport. If you did, give this video a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.